Good morning to members of the media, and we want to also welcome viewers via Facebook as well, both here and overseas. This morning we have at the press conference myself and Senator Herod Stanislaus. We're going to be joined a little later by former Minister of Economic Development, Mr. Guy Joseph, the former MP for Castries Southeast. We're going to be straight to the point this morning. Today we want to really focus and reflect on residents of St. Lucia that continue to be extremely inconvenienced by the government's failed road implementation projects all across the country. Whether you're talking about the West Coast Highway, you're talking about the Rodney Bay Road, several inner community roads which are delayed, and a whole host of other projects. The sick on their way to our main hospital at Owen King EU. We're talking about pregnant mothers, people with spinal injuries and heart conditions. We're talking about people in ambulances that are traversing this road that's in a very poor and unacceptable state as they try to go and get their illnesses remedied, are inconvenienced by the government's failure to successfully complete the main thoroughfare of the Millennium Highway. We see, for example, many of you lose a lot of productive time on your way and from work. Many of you make it to work late because of the traffic backup that's caused in many of our main highways because of the failure of the government to complete various projects. The traffic delays rob teachers and students valuable classroom time, thus affecting their ability to meet the academic requirements to pass various important examinations. Truckers, equipment owners, construction workers, they are losing hourly work and business every time these projects are stopped and delayed. The island continues to lose significant economic momentum every time these projects are delayed. The United Workers' Party does not accept the excuse that we can blame contractors, we can blame consultants, and we can blame other people for the obvious failings of those who should be at the apex of decision making and leadership in our country. And so we remain unimpressed with the St. Lucia's Labour Party's ability and their handling of the situation on the island's roads. The Rodney Bay Road, the Millennium Highway project, the West Coast Road Highway project are all in an unprecedented state of disrepair. And so we have found it necessary to come to speak to you, the members of the press. We believe that this year, which the government has slated as the year of infrastructure, will be the year to implement UWP projects, that they have got to now eat their words. Remember, they said to us that the people didn't eat roads while we were there busily trying to create some economic opportunity for the laborers, for workers of the country who were laid off in other sectors like tourism. This administration vehemently fought many of the projects which they now have to implement. They include the Rodney Bay Road, for example, which I earlier cited, which continue to cause unprecedented traffic jams regardless of which day of the week that people are trying to get to our main tourism district and to the two main shopping malls in our country. This is a significant inconvenience to the people. This is a financial disaster as well, because while the United Workers' Party engaged the contractor at the time with a $15 million contract, the government had a lot to say. But now that the contractor has abandoned the project, the government not only have to pay them based on measured works, which is a technicality in the engineering field, but they have to pay millions more to complete this Rodney Bay Road, which is a nightmare for the people of the north of the country. The Ancillary Bridge is another project that the Labour Party will claim as part of the West Coast Road initiative. Like the West Coast Road, and as part of the West Coast Road, I want the people of Ancillary and St. Lucia to know that this project did not start with the Labour Party. They did not conceive this project. This project came about when British Prime Minister David Cameron visited the Caribbean in the year 2014, some 10 years ago. This is how long these monies were made available to St. Lucia. And St. Lucia, among several Caribbean countries, received an infrastructure aid package from the British government. The then Prime Minister, Dr. Kenny Anthony, had allocated St. Lucia's allocation to construct a road from the Darren Sammy Stadium to the Dennery Valley on the east coast of the island. When we came into government, we found that not only did that project didn't have enough money, but we were running out of time. The implementation rate was slow. Nothing was done really to ensure that we meet the drawdown requirements set by the British DFID, Department of Overseas Development. And so what we decided was the West Coast Road was in a state of disrepair. We see Ancillary and PI were among the only two villages that, for example, had the single-lane bridges. And something had to be done to ensure that the many tourists that are applying from hotels in the north and from the cruise ships in Port Castries had to, for example, ply the West Coast Road. So it's a main economic artery of the country. And so we had to ensure that we improve the driving conditions to ensure that the economic opportunity for the West Coast communities would have derided and yielded much more benefits than they did. And so the UWP refocused this project to bring it from the Millennium Highway. By the time the Labour Party had come in, everything was done. All the administrative requirements, financing from a counterpart standpoint, because the government had to institute counterpart financing with the CDB as part of the agreement. And so while all of this was done, all they had to do was to find the contractors and institute and construct this project. This has been a total disaster. It has been a nightmare. And as a result of the very bad implementation standards of the Millennium Highway, we see that the Ancillary Bridge is also stuck in this glut of mismanagement by the St. Lucia Labour Party. This is not a new road we're asking them to fix. This is a road that we're just asking you to pave, to lay over, put some drains. How difficult is that? But you know, I've heard it said once that if you're unable to fix a road, how can you manage a country? And so the numerous communities that are community roads that are deliberately delayed. And so under our road development projects, which really sought to improve about 35% of the island roads, had there not been very cheap political delays, a number of community roads which you are now struggling with, where you have to change your car parts on a almost monthly to quarterly basis, where we see that brand new vehicles are being destroyed before their time because of the untenable nature of the roads in this country. And I understand when I meet people, they tell us in the supermarkets how untenable and how frustrating and unacceptable this situation has become for them, for their families, for their children, for their pregnant wives. This is a situation that is simply unacceptable. During the year of infrastructure, I was delighted to hear that the Prime Minister said that 2 buildings of the St. Jude's Hospital project will be used as part of the redevelopment. Mr. Prime Minister, why don't you just use the whole project? I mean, this is the very decent and sensible thing to do. Anyone looking at the two approaches can see that the project that you have termed the box for political gain, trying to undermine a very state-of-the-art and modern approach to the development of a hospital, you have now had to eat your words, and now you have to use two of those buildings to make sure that the people of St. Lucia get a decent hospital. 26 buildings that are separate from each other is not the way to go for the functionality of a state-of-the-art facility. In the year of infrastructure, they will also implement a number of hotel projects left on the books by the United Workers' Party. I remember the now tourism minister, in his capacity as the MP for Castries Southeast, criticized the Galaxy development that's taking place at Canals. He said that this project was one of the worst ideas that we had brought to St. Lucia. He had all sorts of things to say about the developer then, because his best friends were the people who developed range development that never happened down in Viewfort. And now we see that the 300 rooms, which are very much close to being completed, the Minister of Tourism, like he did with Cabot, has embraced this project as his new poster child. Because really and truly, he has had no new hotel investments under his belt that will be finished anytime soon that he can brag about. The hotel at Point Seraphin, the Marriott Hotel development, in the year of infrastructure, the Labour Party will be parading this project as if this project is their project. But I want the people of St. Lucia to remember that it was a United Workers' Party that had the foresight to look at a comprehensive redevelopment of the whole Castries port so that we can have a more inclusive, a more comprehensive, and a more impactful tourism development so that our vendors, our taxi drivers, the workers of this country, all of them can benefit in a more holistic way than they are now from the Castries port. The Uranora International Airport, I go to countries in the Caribbean and I see their airports as state-of-the-art. Countries with smaller economies than us. Countries with worse fiscal situations than we do. Countries with less tourist arrivals.
In road rehabilitation ever experienced in this country. With our vision of building a new St. Lucia and a resilient nation, we made public infrastructure, such as roads, one of the pillars of development. Substantial amounts were allocated not only for reconstruction of roads, but also launched a vigorous road maintenance program. As you have heard, what did the then opposition said? The men and women who are in government today. They said, people don't eat roads. But sadly, ladies and gentlemen, today we see that the roads are eating us. The roads are destroying our vehicles. And as the potholes get deeper, we have to dig deeper in our pockets. As a Suferian, I know too well the importance of the Millennium Highway and the West Coast Road to the constituency. 80% of visitors who come to our shores visit Soufrière, and it's quite unfortunate that the government of the St. Lucia Labour Party would have visitors and residents traverse in such road conditions. And it is a nightmare. It is disheartening for Soufrians to even think of leaving Soufrière to traverse the West Coast Road to Castries and back, because this road is in such a bad condition. And you can imagine the number of Soufrians whom every day either they use the public transportation system, the minibuses, or the private vehicles to traverse the West Coast to Castries. Students who go to school Monday to Friday, teachers as well. You also have farmers who traverse this road. almost on a daily basis, especially on a Friday and Saturday. Vendors. And I'm not even talking about the tourists whom every day are on this road. You have taxi drivers from the north who refuse to take a tour down to Soufrière because of the conditions of the West Coast Road. They rather do a 3-hour tour in the north or do a beach tour in the north rather than coming down to Soufrière. So all of this is impacting economic development in Soufrière and in the country as well. Then the West Coast Road is critical for the people of Soufrière Font Saint-Jacques, the people of Canries and Slurry, and the whole of St. Lucia, if we are to see economic growth and development in this country. And it is very sad to see the condition of this road under the St. Lucia Labour Party government. And all we get are excuses and blame from the authorities, from the Ministry of Infrastructure, from the Prime Minister, on their failure and the incompetence to repair and rehabilitate the West Coast Road and the Millennium Highway. Soufrière, ladies and gentlemen, benefited tremendously from the last administration's road rehabilitation agenda. All of the ongoing road projects at the time of the last election have been halted by this administration. Can you imagine that for over 30 years, the people of New Development were clamoring for help to rehabilitate and to reconstruct the roads in New Development? SLP representatives for over 20 years never gave attention to those roads. Always excuses that the roads were in private hands. We came in and we rehabilitated almost 60% of the New Development roads. And it is very sad today that not as little as 1 cubic yard of concrete has been poured to continue and to complete the paving of the New Development roads in Soufrière. Not a cubic yard since the last general elections. 2.5 years of labor representation and governance, and not a cubic yard of concrete has been poured in New Development. The same situation exists on the Esperance Diamond Road, ladies and gentlemen. This road was impassable for over 40 years, and we were able to completely reconstruct the Esperance Road from Esperance all the way into Diamond. The only thing which we had not completed was the drainage. And up to a day like today, not a yard of concrete has been poured to complete the curb and slipper and the V-drains on the Esperance Road. And the road is being undermined on a daily basis, especially during the high rainfall season. We have roads which was started under our administration. The Belfort, the Old French Road at Belfort, this road was stopped. And this was a road which was going to create new access in the community of Belfort, Sulphur Springs, the Rabot area, and open up the constituency for further economic development, whether it is in agriculture, it is in housing, small business, tourism, village tourism. This road project has been abandoned. The road from Belfort into Boisden, where you have many residents traversing on a daily basis, farmers, vendors plying those roads, they were abruptly stopped after the last general election, and nothing has been done. You have roads at Chateau Bel-Air, the Chateau Bel-Air Road. No attention has been given to the Chateau Bel-Air Road, and the people there are crying for help, crying for the assistance to repair the Chateau Bel-Air Road, because this is a road that they traverse on a daily basis. Children going to school at Etangs, those going to school at Choiseul, those working in town at the hotels. People are getting to work late. Buses do not want to go up the Chateau Bel-Air Road to drop off persons or pick up persons on the morning or afternoon. And this is affecting productivity, it is affecting efficiency, and it is affecting the economic and socio-development of Soufrière Fort Saint-Jacques. Ladies and gentlemen, another eyesore, another nightmare, another disaster of a road in Soufrière is the Soufrière to Fort Saint-Jacques road. What is happening to this road? And just last week, we saw where students and teachers walk up and down on a daily basis on both sides of the road. And what is happening right now, the road is so bad with potholes, so deep, filled with water, that vehicles have to be going left, right, and center to avoid the potholes. And students are on both sides of the road, putting the lives of our children, our students in danger. Vehicles going into potholes and that same water splashing onto children. You cannot blame them because there is nowhere to turn on the road to avoid going down into the potholes. And we have a Minister of Infrastructure, we have a Prime Minister, we have a government, a cabinet of ministers. All they do is to blame, and they give petty excuses why they cannot do this, they cannot do that. This, ladies and gentlemen, is unacceptable. We cannot accept a government which in the last campaign said that they were going to put people first. But on a daily basis, we can see that the people don't matter to them. All that matters is politics. All that matters is blaming the past administration for the incompetence, for the failures, for the inability to deliver to you, the people of St. Lucia, and by extension, Soufrière Fort Saint-Jacques. So I want to call on the parliamentary representative for Soufrière Fort Saint-Jacques, Honorable Emma Hippolyte, to apply the pressure on your cabinet colleague, the Minister of Infrastructure, the Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance, so that we can get the West Coast Road fully rehabilitated. We can get the roads at New Development completed. We can get the Font-Beignet Road completed. We can get the roads at Wingsville completed. We can get the Soufrière to Fort Saint-Jacques to Mini to Belle Plaine Road completed, Honorable Parliamentary Representative. And we can get the Church Street Road in Soufrière. This is the main road in Soufrière, which leads to the south and also to the north. And you have potholes all over the Church Street Road. You have a huge depression on Church Street, and nothing has been done for over 2.5 years. This is unacceptable, and we as an opposition, we are going to continue to call on the parliamentary rep for Soufrière Fort Saint-Jacques, call on the Minister of Infrastructure, call on the Prime Minister to heed to the cries, the calls, the frustrations, the anger of the people of Soufrière Fort Saint-Jacques to bring relief to the roads in the constituency and to the people of the West Coast. I thank you, and I now pass on to our colleague, Mr. Guy Joseph, former parliamentary rep for Castries Southeast and former Minister of
United Workers' Party, to lament the performance of the government. We have focused a bit on our road network in this press conference. Now, I came in over the weekend and I made it my business to drive along the Millennium Highway to see what had happened from since when I left in December, early December, and it's end of January. I've not seen any major improvements. For that matter, certain sections of the road, they are worse today. I drove around and they did carry out some potholing in various areas in communities. And I came back to find that these same potholes have resurfaced again. We have to ask the question, is it the quality of material or is it the quality of workmanship? That is the problem, because there is no justification or there's no proper explanation that roads that were repaired If you repair a pothole today, you would expect an area close to the pothole to be damaged. Again, and you can pass on the Tuapiton Road, you can see it. You can pass on the Tiroche Road, that's heading to Forest there, you can see it. And many other places. In fact, if you go to Lakai, from Fondor, coming back to the bridge at Tamazo, you would see sections of that road that was repaired. Potholes have been formed, and I was informed that they have repaired some of them twice, and the potholes are still reappearing. Road right next to where they opened the new NHC office. You have to be moving, swerving from side to side to get away from potholes in the city of Castries. And you know what was happening from the entrance of the Millennium Highway into Castries, and late night just before Christmas they try to block the potholes. We have a government, all it is doing is reacting. Now let's examine the facts. There is no reason why the motoring public should be required to drive on the Millennium Highway under these deplorable conditions. Every road contract for major roads where vehicles continue to traverse on a daily basis, there are components in the contract for the upkeep and basic maintenance of the road while it is under repair. Why are we not seeing this with the Millennium Highway? Is the contractor being properly supervised? Is the ministry aware of what is happening? We have two ministers of infrastructure in charge of the project. You have the Prime Minister, who was a former Minister of Infrastructure, and you have the former Prime Minister, who is the present Minister of Infrastructure. And if these two senior persons within the Labour Party cannot manage the repairs of roads, what will they be able to manage in this country? That is what St. Lucians need to ask themselves. Now, you may be thinking we are lamenting the roads. Yes, we have to. That is our responsibility as an opposition, to call out the government and to have them to account for their stewardship as the managers of the affairs of this country. Now, they cannot say they did not have funds for the project. Under a United Workers' Party government, everything was done to secure the requisite funding for the entire Millennium Highway, and then all the way down to Soufrière. We saw a company awarded a contract, and they had been in St. Lucia for maybe 6 months and no work had started. But was this contractor given mobilization money to start the project? And why is it taking so long? While the people of St. Lucia, who is going to refund the motoring public for all of the damages to their vehicles and the additional expense? It appears to me that the government does not care about that. You look at basic things like maintaining the sides of the roads. We used to have caretakers. Caretakers would clean the sides of the roads, and our roads were kept in reasonably good condition along the sides when UWP was in office. You know, the Labour Party has a way of doing things that puzzles me sometimes, because you remember some time ago I told you the Labour Party, when they were in office, they were cutting the grass behind the grass. And people made fun of it, but when they saw what I was saying, they understood. Now it's not a situation of cutting the grass behind the grass, but it's a situation of having to cut the grass on the grass that they put on the side of the road. And let me explain myself. And I have photos to show you what I'm saying. They cleared the drains and they cut some of the grass. They put it on the carriageway of the road. It has remained there for so long that the grass has now grown sufficiently that you need to employ a second person now to go and cut the grass on top of the grass that they put by the side of the road. Now, this is not comical. I'm not saying this because this is comical or this is a joke. You can go around St. Lucia, and I have the photos on my phone. That's just in my community where I passed, and I took some photos. And you have to ask yourself, why are you going to cut grass on the side, put it on the road, and leave it there for so long that the grass has now grown again and you need to employ somebody to go back and cut it? So, who is in charge? Now, they call Minister King the senior minister in the government. But it is evident that he may be senior because of how long he's been in politics. He may be senior because of age, but he's not senior because of performance. Because he has proven that he cannot perform the duties and responsibilities of a minister of infrastructure. We have never had so many bad roads at one time in St. Lucia as far as my memory goes. So, is there hope in this government? They call it the year of infrastructure. I've heard that. I've heard these cliches before. You gave 5 years of putting the people first. That's what you promise. We are not first, we are not last. We are flat down. As they put it, nous plate à terre à présent. In fact, we are below the ground level because some of the potholes in the roads, I mean, I've never seen potholes so deep. And you have to drive with so much caution. I drove the Millennium Highway. When you leave the entrance, when you leave in the second tunnel coming from Castries going towards cul-de-sac, you see the conditions of the potholes there, how deep they are. And when you get to the roundabout country, there is only one solution to our problem. We need to get rid of this government before it gets to a point where you cannot bring St. Lucia back. If they have not been able to repair basic roads in 2.5 years, you think with the time that is left, and when they tell you it's the year of infrastructure, didn't they promise us years ago that there would be houses built in cul-de-sac? That there was going to be a high-rise building, that even the gas attendants would be able to afford them? Have they started? Where are they? Where are the houses that have been built? Where are the solutions? If you have a government that cannot manage the importation of sugar in a country, how many times have we had shortages of sugar? And tell me which other island in the Caribbean or in the OECS have had a shortage of sugar. My information is they can only afford to buy 2 containers of sugar at a time. Just look at the economic impact. Some of the canned drinks are so expensive, parents cannot buy it for their children anymore. But they can't even get sugar to squeeze a couple oranges and limes to make a bottle of juice to give their children to go to school. You think the government really cares about that? So I'm saying to us, St. Lucians, if you don't look out for yourself, who do you expect to look out for you? And as my colleague Herod indicated, I saw the bus drivers in Fosse Jacques want to take action. Do we have to go to protest action for roads to be fixed? Isn't the National Council on Public Transport representing the Soufrière Fosse Jacques minibus drivers? Why is it that when it was Bele, they called for a strike action on a community that it was less than a mile of road with some potholes? They shut down the service in that community. So is the National Council on Public Transport playing politics, or are they representing the interest of the people? Why are the roads in such deplorable conditions? Have we had the, when the National Council spoke about the roads and the minister made the comments, and they came back and responded by saying they are demanding an apology from the minister. Have they received that apology? Have the road been fixed? Nothing has happened. Yet still, they remain silent in the process. And it is taking individual bus drivers to cut off the service in various communities. There are many people being deprived in this country of public transport. We don't know it because it's not publicized. But it is time that this government realize the solution to the problems in this country is to call the elections. You cannot fix the roads. Let the UWP government, who have proven over the years to be better managers of the affairs of the country, come in and handle the affairs and put St. Lucia back on the right footing. Thank you.
All right, so members of the media, thank you very much, Herod and Guy, for such passionate pleas. And this is where we will now entertain your questions.
When you're running a small business, you don't have it, they don't make a trip specifically there because the other things they can do without it. So we have seen, and I want the media to investigate. There's been a lot of rumors, and I know in the US it's not a rumor, that we are expecting major food shortages later into this year, coming into next year. Have we heard anything from our government? I know there are many places that I saw, hospitals and different places, that are already stocking up because they're expecting some shortages. Now, if there are not shortages yet, and we have shortages in St. Lucia already, and the rest of the world does not have shortages, what will happen if the rest of the world have shortages? We will starve in this country. We just heard the Minister of Agriculture yesterday speaking about some yam rust. But this thing has been around for a couple years. A lot of the farmers lost all of the, even the plants, they lost. Only now the Ministry of Agriculture is looking into that.
My question for you. The opposition leaders supposed to address the nation over the weekend. We've seen a postponement and no excuse, no thing. What can you tell us? What was on Sunday? What exactly is the situation, and why is the opposition not? Did not have the address the nation on Sunday.
And it was due to technical issues because, as you know, the leader of the opposition is out of Ireland. There was some issues with the recording that was done overseas to be sent here. And as a result, by next week, by this Sunday coming, we expect that the address by the leader of the opposition would be done. But it was primarily because of technical difficulties that the address was not carried out this as was announced.
Some people are saying it's because the Labour Party postponed the meeting in answering the ordinary substance. What do you say to that?
I would not even dare to comment on this. That's not worth a comment.
Yeah.
I have a question for Mr. Fide.
Yes, sir.
With the recent travel advisory issued by the U.S. State Department for the Bahamas due to the increased crime rate, are there fears that something similar will happen to St. Lucia as we also have a ever-increasing crime rate?
It's a real possibility that that can happen, as the U.S. has done with the Bahamas. But, you know, I've always said this, that first and foremost, we should fix the crime situation for our residents, people who are living here, regardless of their walk of life. And I think that this is where our focus needs to be. Once we manage our country from the standpoint that St. Lucia is a safe place to live, then I think you can say it can be an amazing place for people to visit. But it must first be a safe place for us to live, for people that are living here, because these are the people that are most affected by the crime situation that are affecting us. The chances of a tourist being affected has proven to be that very slim. But however, one situation can blow out of control, as we have seen historically. The Bahamas, it's a very sad situation what has happened there, but if we are not careful, the very same thing can happen to St. Lucia. Tourism is a very sensitive business, and crime does not help the brand. You know, this government hasn't done enough advertising to promote St. Lucia so that I can tell you or feel any comfortable that if you know, there was a possibility that this would have happened, that because we have been doing such a great job proactively, then the likelihood of any travel advisory affecting our returns from tourism, that could help to cushion it. It is not the scenario for St. Lucia, and so therefore I'm very concerned about how we're promoting the destination. You get a lot more coverage on crime. Look, the last time we had the expat that died in Soufrière, if you go back and you read the coverage that came out of it in one of our main tourism market, the UK market, I mean, any major network or newspaper that you could think about, you know, it's always very, very sensational for people to say paradise gone bad. And we must do everything to avoid that, to make sure that we, first of all, create a safe environment for our people to live.
I want to follow up to that.
Yeah.
I was speaking to the Minister of Tourism yesterday, and he said that he believes in social intervention as opposed to necessarily being tougher on crime, I guess, with law enforcement. What are your thoughts on that? Do you believe that the government is too soft on crime? Should there be stronger penalties for criminals? Or do you agree that social intervention, there should be more social intervention?
I think a mix between the two. I think right now in St. Lucia, it seems as if the tail is wagging the dog. And I think we need to get back to the days when the dog wags the tail. The police, certainly law enforcement should show that we are in control, not you, the criminals. And it appears that the criminals are in control. And, you know, people tend to get that impression. I know that this is a very controversial statement, but at the moment, you know, I've seen videos of people in crowds pointing their fingers in the faces of police officers. This is egregious. This is wrong. And we need to make sure that people understand that the police is there to ensure that law and order is maintained in this country, and you should respect the police. There should be no disrespect. And so I think we got to get that part right to regain the level of respect for the police. And, you know, I think that people in politics can do well to make sure that they support the police more so that the police gains that respect. Now, you know, I think the St. Lucia Labour Party administration, you look at who supported them in the last election, they can't bark because many of the perpetrators of crime are their supporters. And so I'm not saying that all SLP supporters are criminals, but there seems to be a pandering to lawless behavior by the St. Lucia Labour Party administration. And so that's why you've never seen any government official from the cabinet come out and to speak forcefully and to say that we reject that kind of behavior and to say that this is unacceptable because their hands are tied because they need political favors from certain criminal elements of the country.
A question for you, also the Senator. Suggestions have been made from the public with regards to the traffic issues. Yes, we do understand the problem with the roads itself, but suggestions have been made for restrictions on the importation of vehicles. I wanted to get your thoughts on that, and also I guess the former transport minister could probably say something on that.
I'm going to let the former transport minister speak on that one.
As your country develops, your infrastructure must develop alongside the other aspects of country development, of system, except you have a network of transportation that is available 24/7. So let me break down what I'm saying so that people can put it into perspective. Many of the new car dealers over the years, supported by the St. Lucia Labour Party, have sought to impose restrictions on imported used vehicles on the island. There was a time when our economy was primarily based on agriculture. So you woke up at home, you walked to the farm, which was in close proximity to your home, and you returned. We've moved away from being an agricultural-based economy to a service-based economy. How do the hotel worker who leaves work at 11 o'clock in the night, if there is a delay of the hotel transportation, they get into Castries or Shock or wherever the bus is passing at midnight or after midnight? If these people do not have a vehicle of their own, how do they get home? If they do not have a friend. So vehicles have become a necessity, not a luxury, in our present economy. So anybody coming with the suggestion, and my colleagues in cabinet knows, in our cabinet when we were in government, knows where I stand on that. We have to put measures in place to regulate what happens in the country, but not to block our people from being able to purchase a vehicle. Because it has become a necessity for us. And so, to protect some businesses, we want to stifle other persons from being able to go on the internet, get a vehicle to move their kids to school, their family, to give them the level of convenience. That is what you get with progressive developing countries. What you need to do is to improve your road network. And that's why I'm disappointed with what has happened with the Millennium Highway. You know why I'm disappointed? Because when this road was first constructed, it was constructed to be a four-lane, the possibility of being four-lane with the exception of the tunnels. What has happened with the sidewalks that they have gone and put on the road is they've taken away the other two carriageways. And if you want to understand what I'm saying, go to cul-de-sac and look by KFC. You're building this huge roundabout. You have the double lane coming from Viewfort, and you build walls on either side that can accommodate only 2 lanes of traffic, one up and one down. Who does that in this day and age? Every road that is designed, even if you do not put the additional lanes today, you ought to leave the space on the side, build your walls in a manner. So why did they build a 4-lane bridge and we have 2-lane carriageways now? And where we need the 4-lane in a major junction like cul-de-sac, you've reduced it to 2 lanes. I mean, you have to ask, who are the geniuses in charge of planning and organizing these things? And when I speak about that, they tell you I finger man. I don't. In the world, all first world countries. So, you see those pushing that agenda, it's not the roads they are concerned about, it's their business.
Yesterday, I did ask I don't know if you've been aware of the social media discussions on the state of the city and what is the standard to what it's becoming. As a lot of people are complaining, it's becoming like a ghetto. I wanted to get your thoughts on it. Asking Dr. Hill about it, and he did mention that there needs to be an action plan. There's no action plan. I know under the former administration, you all did adopt the plan, which I think Compton would have a plan from Compton days. So your thoughts on that, and what's become of the city and what it looks like now?
Well, I think I agree with you. It's a deplorable situation, and what has happened to our main capital is unacceptable. What is happening to Rodney Bay is very, very unacceptable. The tourism minister has indicated, as it relates to Rodney Bay, we have a big noise pollution. It's more than noise pollution, but there are also issues with, people just springing up and doing very unplanned shops and facilities there that might not be in keeping with the overall environment of Rodney Bay. So we need to determine with the residential buildings in the city, if we're going to keep them, then we need to maintain them. We need to make sure that they are painted properly. The last time that any maintenance went into them was when the Minister of Housing, who was sitting here, actually gave it some level of attention. So we need to also give incentives to local businesses to make sure that people look after their properties. There was a massive overall sweeping plan, and then as well, the third component had to be government investment. If you look at what we have done with the upgrading of the market facility, so you go into the market now, phase 1 was completed by us. The second part of the project, which is the box park in the location of the old marketing board building, that facility is under construction right now. This is all part of our whole intention to enhance and regenerate Castries and make it a place that we can all be proud of. Look at what's happening at Point Seraphim with the Marriott Hotel project going up at present, a project that the Labour Party criticized as they traditionally do. So we have to make sure that we take better care of public buildings, like the CDC buildings. We need to give them a lot more love and a lot more care, and as well give businesses incentives to look after private commercial property, as well as more public sector investment. Okay?
Your thoughts on the Fish Friday revival? I think critics of the opposition are saying that the reason why you're clamoring on what's happening in ancillary in terms of the bridge and whatnot is because Fish Friday is being revived. So
absolutely not. The only thing that stood in the way of the fish fry and the UWP administration was COVID. The people of Ancillary would have very fond memories. We brought the Ark to Ancillary. That was the first time ever that was done. Look at the overall, the total overhaul of the Ancillary waterfront. That is to help the whole environment so that people can find the fish fry facility that much more attractive. The ribbon cutting on the fish fry building was a project conceived and executed by the United Workers' Party, which the Labour Party took too long to reopen until the people got on to social media. That's when they actually made that happen. We had a host of events. We gave significant support from Events St. Lucia and CDF in terms of helping to bring entertainment to the area so that people can find it a lot more desirable. And the work had already started, and we were doing very, very well until COVID happened and shut down not just the Gros Islet Friday night, but also the Ancillary Fish Fry. It is now the government's job to make sure that they do what is necessary to sustain the work that we had already started so successfully. The issue with ancillary is that it has this enormous potential, but the Labour Party continues to neglect and to abandon the great potential that exists in ancillary for tourism generally. I would say to them, using this forum, we built a hotel on the waterfront. We built a 10-room bread and breakfast facility. All we're asking them is to complete the project and open the facility so that the people of ancillary can have jobs, so that the people of ancillary can have the opportunity for small businesses. This project is important for the viability of ancillary. So fish fry is just really a small fry in the whole totality of what the United Workers' Party had planned for ancillary and what we had executed. We didn't just plan, but it's a plan that we executed. Moorings out on the bay so that yachts can come in and park and enjoy the beachfront restaurant, which was built to immaculate perfection in the community. The jetty extension, we had already had discussion with the ferry from Martinique that comes into Rodney Bay, and that ferry was going to now extend an extra leg of its tour down to ancillary so that ancillary would have been connected to Martinique and visitors from Martinique would have had greater access to ancillary. So it's not just the bed and breakfast facility that we built, but there was also a $10 million loan which we placed at the St. Lucia Development Bank. You'll remember during COVID, the then Minister of Finance, Alan Chasney, for small tourism businesses established a fund. It was 10 million Eastern Caribbean dollars. And he signed this with the CEO of CARICOM Development, Mr. Roddy Suma. And those monies were made available so that people in ancillary, Soufriere, Bexar, anywhere that you believe that you can do a great tourism project, that you can then borrow these monies and then use these monies to fund your tourism facility. What has happened to village tourism? Where is the technical support that's going to all of the small businesses? Where is the infrastructure that we were looking to build? Where are the incentives? The tourism development bill, I would like to inform the minister that the policy thrust was already left for the minister. This is nothing new. When we came in, you had a 6-room requirement to qualify for incentives. So if you can't afford to build 6 bedrooms, you couldn't qualify for incentives from the government. The United Workers' Party, in its wisdom, we then set a policy thrust and instructed the AG's chambers to ensure that they amend the Tourism Development Act of 1998 to make sure that regardless of if you have 1 bedroom, 6 bedrooms, 2, 3, 4, that you can qualify for incentives just like the bigger hotels. And we also went a step further to make sure that people who had attractions, if you were doing like a tour, if you're a taxi driver, if you operated a tour, let's say in Soufriere, an estate, or you had a farm tour or a food tour, that when you're buying equipment for these facilities, that you too qualify for incentives. So this is like ages ago. There's nothing new that the minister has done, but implement old ideas that has been in the work. But you know, there's something about government which I appreciate. One government will plant a seed, another government will water that seed, another government will come in and cut and prune the trees. But then the guy who looks like the winner is the guy who picks the fruit. And sometimes that's the easiest part. Yeah? I thank you very, very much. I don't know if you have any questions.
One more question.
Yes, sir?
It is said that one of the major reasons for the elevating crime levels in the country is a lack of early age training for employment in St. Lucia. What do you say about that?
There's so many. I know we have a roundtable discussion later this week, and I know that we'll be touching a lot of these issues. But crime requires a holistic response. I was very proud that while we were in government, we sought the consultation of everyone. So the former National Security Minister, one of the first things he did, he had a national consultation and he said, look, we needed a bipartisan approach to crime. So he brought in members from the opposition, trade union leaders, civil society members, church groups, because we believe that you need a holistic approach. You need all hands on deck. You need every aspect of society to make a crime fighting effort important. Teachers are important. Our curriculum in the schools are important. The example that we set as elders for younger people, very crucial. Parenting, very crucial. And all of these initiatives are very, very important to solving the crime situation. So you have a route that begins from when children are very, very young, that if not dealt with, then that root that is planted is going to cement itself so deep that by the time they reach to 16 and 17, it becomes impossible for us to do anything about it. So intervention must happen at a very early age. You notice in St. Lucia, you have many families have a lack of access to early childhood education. And I've done some volunteering. I'm not an expert in this field, but if you ask anyone within the early childhood sector, they will tell you that the most stimulus part of a person's brain is from the ages of 0 to 3. And so it's important for you to teach the right values from then. And if you don't teach those values from then it becomes very difficult for people to then get the right habits for successful living later on in life. But we must not abandon this idea of a village raising a child. We must be our brother's keeper in this fight. If you notice, we've played very little politics as it relates to crime. I don't think we have been engaged enough in the opposition by the current regime as it relates to crime. I think a lot of the issues, like the abandonment, for example, of the K-9 unit, big mistake by this administration. You don't weaken the capacity of your police force when you're dealing with a crime surge and a crime crisis. You must strengthen the capacity of your police force. We support any initiative that will get the police the right level of technology, the equipment that is necessary for them to fight the crime situation. We support a holistic development in terms of making sure that the economic fortunes of the country, especially in crime-riddled areas where our young people are susceptible to joining gangs, that we deal with making sure that they have an option and that, gangs are not their only means to an end in life, but they can come from a poor family and have opportunities as well. That is the economic side, which we must ensure. But by the rate that this administration is going and the way that they're managing simple things in this country, we have no confidence that they can grow this economy to the extent that our young people from any walk of life, so that they can get opportunity and feel less frustrated.
If you allow me, what do you say to the school leaving students that are saying that there's not enough training happening to prepare them, for the employment world in St. Lucia?
They're absolutely right. And business people will tell you the very same thing, that there is a big mismatch between the jobs available and the skills that are available to take up those jobs. And a lot of the training that is done for the jobs that are available, most of it is done by the private sector. And so we have to do a better job in terms of amending our curriculum. There's a big need for technical vocational training. I know that the CARE institution gets a lot of props from the business community, especially in hotels. They tell you that when someone comes from the CARE institution is one of the best trained employees or best trained talent that they can find. So I want to take this opportunity to really commend the people at CARE, to commend all the teachers and the leaders there for the great work that they have been doing in making sure, and that's just a fine example of how we can use that to build on technical vocational skills so that more of this can be available to local businesses. They so badly need these skills. Thank you. Is that it?
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Facebook viewers, for joining us. Thanks to Guy. Thanks to Herod. Thank you all very much to GDTV. Thank you for joining us.